Welcome to WatchMeWatches, and today we're talking about the Holy Grail. No, not the one that we've seen in Indiana Jones, but a terminology that's often used and often misused, often by myself as well, about the Holy Grail or a Grail watch. For some people it is a watch that is incredibly hard to obtain, maybe a rare vintage piece. There's only 5 of in existence and you spend your entire lifetime scouring the world to hunt it down, and you eventually get it and spend what could be a lifetime's amount of money to obtain that object. That generally is not what I don't think a lot of people use Grail watch for, in terms of terminology, of course. I use it personally for a watch which is something that is one of my absolute top favourites, something I would absolutely just love to obtain one day. It's a little bit more than my usual budget. I normally spend £200 to £300 as a special watch, but a really special watch, that's where this kind of price bracket comes in my mind. What about you guys? That's another question. But if you're spending over £1,000, say £1,500, 1,800 euros, things like that. That for me is slipping into what I would say is a special occasion watch. Nivada Grenchen, that's where they come in. I think they are an amazing, interesting brand, a resurging brand from days gone by. They've had watches in the past where they've had some history and done some amazing things. They did some firsts, you know, it had a 1,000-meter, quite compact sized dive watch. They've had the first watch that had a depth gauge built in. They had a watch which went on a mission to South Pole in Antarctica. Wasn't the first one, by the way, but there's something went on a mission, deep freeze. And then we've got this beautiful watch which we're sharing with you today. This is my first experience with this brand. And the questions are, is it good? Is it something you should put on your Grail watch list? What do I think of it? And then it's down to what you think, and I'd like to find out that in the comments, but that's later on. First bit is going to be the stats and specs, and have a chat a bit more after that. So I bet you weren't expecting to see me outdoors for a change. This is just sort of a nice twist on my usual review style, as it's such a lovely day. It's the bank holiday Jubilee weekend. For those of you who don't know, you're overseas. Our beloved Queen has been on the throne for 70 years this year, and I get a few extra days off work, which is an absolute treat. So I've broken away from family duties probably for about 10 minutes, just kick me out of the house. I brought a beer with me, a Camden Hell's Lager, which is actually quite refreshing and delicious. And I'm having that as I do a walk to the woods and to the park. And I'm wearing the Nivada Grenchen on my wrist. So I'm actually trekking through the woods a bit now. It actually feels like I am going on an epic quest to find the Grail watch. But no, of course, the watch in question is highly and easily obtainable because you can just go on Nivada's website and buy one right now. You know, it's not obviously got that constant lineage of Nivada Grenchen. It hasn't just been in the same family and carried on for years. It's been effectively rebranded and brought back to life again. Quite a common thing. I mean, a lot of brands are done that way. You know, companies go out there and go, well, what's an old brand from 50 or 60 years ago that kind of died? It's an excellent way of tapping into this passionate watch market of people that really love these old designs and these old names and bringing them back to life. I mean, it's good that they're just not left dead forever. You know, pay as faithful homage to the original pieces as possible. Then I think it's a winner, and that's where this Nivada Grenchen comes in. I think they've worked really hard to keep it as traditional as possible and in keeping with the old pieces. That adds another level of sort of specialness, if that's a word, I think it is, to these watches. You know, they've got a history and that little X factor, and it's nice that that again is coming back. I'm going to find a better spot with some more light because it's a bit gloomy in the woods, and if someone sees a man walking around with a camera drinking beer talking to himself, might just draw some questioning. Oh man, I'm so lucky with this weather. I'm actually a very lucky man as well. I'm just about to finish one of my last beers, and as I was filming, my beloved wife, who's out getting some shopping, just offered to get me some more, so thanks, wife. This little watch I've become smitten with for it's a personal reasons really. I mean, the main thing I love about it is the size. It's a compact size. I tried it on my wife's wrist and it looks really good even on her. I think this is more for medium to small wrists. I mean, I've got a 7¼ inch wrist and that is a decent size for a man. It's average, you know, I'm 6'1" and regular weight, and it's going to look great on many people. That's why I think sometimes these vintage watches, people worry about them looking a bit too small, but I think this is a good size. It's a size which works for many people. Lightweight. I think it's helped with the fact it doesn't have a rotor in there because this is the manual wind version, and I really like the manual wind aspect of it because it's something you have to interact with every few days just to sort of recharge the energy and the movement. It's a bit more retro, a bit more vintage, because generally watches in those days were manual wind as well, so it's nice to have something that's got that feature. But it's got a modern movement. It's a great thing, these Solita movements. They're reliable, rugged, got up-to-date tech, good power reserves. And this one, oh my God, the movement is running ridiculously. I mean, it should say chronometer on the dial, not Chronomaster, because I put it on my time graph and I tested it in about 4 or 5 different positions, which I always do. I always show you maybe one in the videos, but save you getting bored. And this has averaged 0 rate change a day. I mean, that is perfect. This is the most accurate watch I've ever tested. I'm actually taking you guys somewhere extremely special. I'm going to take you to the bench, which is the first place when we had my son and we went out for a little walk. We went to our spot where we like to throw the ball for the dog. We sat at that bench there. I could barely see it because the sun's blinding me. So what I initially was not sure I would like about this watch was this fact it has a friction bezel. By that I mean there's no notches or clicks as you turn it, and it's bi-directional of course. And I was worried it's going to just be awful to make this feel cheap. The good news is there's a really nice level of resistance. It feels quite tight, and obviously you're never going to have alignment issues, but it just feels really, really nicely engineered, and it's something you can fidget with. But I do, to be honest with you, I still prefer something that has that ratcheting or clicky feel when you turn it. But this has been nicely done, and again it's in keeping with the original pieces. You had these friction bezels and it's been executed really well. Something's a bit weird to me personally is you flip this round like you normally would to go and just look at the back case back. It's upside down, so it's weird. You have to look at it, you have to go like this just to read it straight. But that's just a little weird quirk. Same with this vulcanized rubber strap, which is gorgeous by the way. I'll talk to you a little bit more about that in a sec, but this strap is so easy to take off. But then for me, what I'm used to with quick release is it's normally the other side. So this just feels odd. And you're used to always doing it from this side. Now back to vulcanized rubber, that's effectively natural rubber with a synthesized process where they add other ingredients to basically make it a lot more durable, tough. It's like super rubber, effectively. It's amazing, and the quality is there. If you've got a big wrist, I'm on the 5th hole. If you've got a bigger wrist than me, you're going to struggle with this. I'm surprised at how compact this actually feels for a mechanical watch, a chronograph especially. I think it's been packaged very nicely. Still quite chunky, but it doesn't feel too chunky considering it's quite short lug to lug and the case size. It's probably on the ever so slightly disproportionate on the thickness front, but it doesn't look ungainly or ugly. Well, that's just my opinion. A little flaw as well, a few little niggles, but again, none of them deal breakers. Is the hands on these subdials, and the subdials themselves are tiny. They're quite hard to read, but then the thing that makes up for it is I love this up to 5-minute count for the initially when you start the chronograph. For the first 5 minutes you've got a red area, so that's just really nice detail. And obviously it has a built-in tachymeter hidden within here. It's quite hard to read. See in the bezel your count adjustment as well if you want to do some extra timing adjustment here. So it's really good as a versatile timing device. But the feel of these pushers is absolutely stunning. It really is. Immediately mechanical feeling. Every press is responsive. A little downside though is the hand is not that easy to see. It doesn't have any loom or a triangle or anything on there or a dot at the end. But again, it's in keeping with the original design. And the snapback is so lovely. Immediate snapback. Straight back to, it lines up perfectly with the cock and balls you get at the 12 o'clock. I love this dial, really neatly proportioned and laid out, and I like the fact you've got a slightly matte grain texture to it, and the logo itself is actually raised ever so slightly. It's not printed on, well it is, but it looks like it's been pressed or raised a bit, and I just think that's nice. Adds a little bit more depth and character to even how the text is applied. Now, something else I'm not quite so sure on is these hands. I do love them. They are very easy to read, but I think the loom could be a bit better, but then this isn't really meant to be a loom monster. Yeah, it lasts fairly well, but it's not like anything that's going to blow your mind. And you know, I've seen better. It is a Swiss watch and it's okay. So I mean, when the light drops, it is going to have a pop of glow for a while, and it's great just for that quick bit of legibility. You're not going to be disappointed, really. You know, I'm just picky because I'm so used to these kind of watches. When you buy a Swiss watch, they're normally amazing, of course, but then we've got to bear in mind we've been spoilt with some watches. They just say, well, what we do is to sell more of them, we just load loads of lume on it, and we know it's a unique selling point. But you know what, it's not something that is actually that important for the day-to-day functionality of a watch. And while we're on the subject, this chronograph function, I never actually time anything. For me, I just would ever use it as a fidget aid. You know, I just love to press the buttons and reset it. Yeah, I love the functionality of a chronograph, but to be honest, it's very rare I actually need it for anything crucial. It's more for something to fiddle with. And maybe the AR coating could not be quite so blue. I mean, it's quite garish. It does catch the light. It's different. You can't quite see it now, but it does definitely in sunlights. It's quite purpley blue. And something that's often can kind of be a problem with sapphire, especially a heavy dome like on this one. It's kind of a top hat. The issue you can get is it can look a bit milky around the edges where the distortion would be. But this is crystal clear at all angles. It's really lovely. It's still that little bit of distortion like you would like for it to have that vintage look, yet it's really clear still. So that's been done really well. And then the bezel insert, it's aluminium, and some people say, oh, why isn't it ceramic? And I think there's actually a real charm to the aluminium insert still. I mean, I've got it on my Zim 104 and things like that. And I know there's a worry about it scratching and things like that, but to be honest, the finish you still get, because it has a slight texture to it, and it's not too shiny and blingy. It's got a warmth to it generally, and that's what I still like about these aluminium inserts. And I think it's, you know, still nice they've got that authenticity with this piece by having that in there. And I must mention, while I'm talking about authenticity, I like that they've kept this lovely design. It's got some real interesting features. I mean, look at this bezel. It's got a lovely angle to it. It really helps with the grip, and it's really nice and easy to get a hold of. Sounds a bit dodgy. What is good though is it has 100 meters water resist. So being a sporty tool watch, it's really nice to know that you could jump in the pool with this. I wouldn't recommend using the pushers when you're in there, but it's something that you could get wet and just enjoy on almost any occasion. And that's something I would expect from a watch I've spent this much on, not just have it as a special occasion piece, buy it for a special occasion, but not only wear it on special occasions. It's nice, something you can wear all the time. It's very versatile. I really hope you've enjoyed my outdoors take on this watch and enjoyed my review. Let's go back to the studio. And thanks again to Nivada Grenchen for allowing me to borrow it. It's one of the few watches which I'm really reluctant to send back, is that kind of watch. For me, it's on the list. And by the list, I mean next special occasion. It's something I will very strongly consider. What about you?